2012 was such an insane year. In a good way though. It seems like everything that happened this year was either high energy, experimental, or just flat out unheard of. It's like 2012 was really the party year.
We know the videos about Project X, stop being predictable.
Now that we got that out of the way, it's come to my attention that a lot of you aren't even old enough to remember this year, because for some reason, I have a fan base full of pipsqueaks. So to give a synopsis of what this year was like, and refresh the memories of those who were around at this time, the best way I could say it is, everything that happened this year just feels like something that was unheard of, and completely took the world by storm. For example, the music. Many songs that got big this year were just about celebrating life. We got straight hits from the likes of Bruno Mars. We were listening to Fun, who had just dropped their project in 2011, only to never drop again. And of course, the greatest Latino artist of all time, the legend, none other than Pitbull.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Something in the Spanish. Don't stop the party.
I don't really listen to too much Spanish music, in case you guys couldn't tell. But this is what we were listening to around this time. In fact, the biggest new group to come out around this time were famous for a dance that consisted of them flailing their genitals through their pants. And no one questioned it because it was 2012 and we were having fun. The movies were, at worst, experimental, and at best, straight up masterpieces. And you know what else? A New York sports team won something! Y'all wasn't there for that 2012 Super Bowl. We weren't always washed. I don't care what your father told you. Can we get a hashtag trade Julius Randle in the comment? But one of my theories as to why this year was so jam-packed is because 2012 wasn't supposed to be this way. In fact, 2012 wasn't supposed to be a year at all, because we all thought that the goddamn world was gonna end. Yeah, true story. Because some fucko decided that he wanted to make a movie called 2012, scaring us into thinking that the world was gonna end a few years later. And this is before YouTube conspiracy theorists were written off as woke and considered idiots. So you gotta understand, even the older, more competent people believed that the world was going to end. But it didn't! And so I think the world just felt the need to celebrate, have fun, and above all, party. So it's only fitting that this is the year that we got the best party movie ever made. Ladies and gentlemen, and whatever you identify as at this point, I pretty much lost count. Project X. Project X is a film about a really good party. That's it, and it's legit one of my favorite movies. When this film was teased back in 2011, the internet went crazy. We've gotten party movies before, but this one was different because unlike other party movies, there isn't a huge subplot. It isn't a high school or college movie that just happens to have a big party scene in it. No, the party is the highlight. The party is the hype. The party is the movie. And a movie like this has seldom been done before. So without further ado, let's talk about it. Tell you guys what I like, maybe what could have been better, and overall, why I not only think this movie is great, but deserves to be remembered. So we meet our main lead, Thomas, whose parents are leaving for the weekend. His parents tell him that he's only allowed to have a few friends over, but that's it. Yeah, not gonna happen. But at the time, we don't know this. His mother is especially worried about him staying home alone for the weekend, but then his father has to genuinely vocalize his doubts about his son doing anything too heinous because his son is a loser. His words, not mine. Watch it for yourself.
This is Thomas we're talking about. He's not exactly Mr. Popular.
What is that supposed to mean?
I'm just saying that he's not that type of kid. You know, he's got a couple of friends, they're gonna hang out, but they're not gonna do anything. He's a sweet kid, but he's a loser.
And we have our other protagonists, JB, Dax, and Costa. JB is the typical overweight nerd trope. Quiet, awkward, nerdy, down for whatever. He's cool, I guess. Dax, who really doesn't talk that much, if at all, and you only get to see him once throughout this entire movie, because he's the person filming. One important thing to note about this film is that a lot of it is done in a found footage style, so a lot of these scenes, especially the ones that are done in the beginning, are recorded in a vlog style from the perspective of Dax. So that's pretty much his purpose of being here, is to record the events of Project X. And then we have Costa. What are we gonna do? Alright, here's what we're gonna do for him. Take like 10 of the most assholic individuals you've ever met, blend them all into one, and they still wouldn't be a quarter of the fuck nigga that Costa is.
I had hoes blowing me on the reg. My dick is gonna get so wet tonight.
Excuse me.
And of course, in my culture, I've been a man since my 13th birthday.
They get to school and everyone's talking about this fever dream of a party. Everyone got laid. Even the students with physical disabilities were able to score something.
Is it true what I heard about you at Zam's party last week? You got a blowjob from his mom? That party was so sick. Everyone got laid. No wheelchair Robert even got a hand job.
Did I mention how this movie probably wouldn't be able to come out now? So our main leads decide that they need to throw a party of their own because they are nobodies, and it's not just about being at a good party, but if you can throw one, you can truly be immortalized. Like 70% of this motivation comes from Costa, but everyone else is kind of just down for it too, you know? And I feel like that's kind of what makes this dynamic entertaining. Like, yeah, Thomas and JB want to be cool, and Dax kind of just literally doesn't say anything. But Costa's kind of just the guy that's putting everything into perspective, like, nah, man, like, we can do this. Back in Queens, I used to score all the hoes with my parties. And whether he's lying or not, which he most likely is, it makes sense for him to be the driving force that's pushing people to take action towards making a party happen. You also can't really say that he's forcing anyone to do anything, because the other main leads want this party to happen too. But if shit eventually does hit the fan, you can't really feel bad for any of them. So they decide, no more talking, let's make it happen. They go out, buy supplies for the party, send out invites, one of which went to Miles Teller, who's just at the grocery shop chilling.
Holy shit, dude. It's Miles Teller.
My tell, what's cracking, bro? We go to North Pass.
Listen, Miles, we're having a little soiree at my place tonight. I mean, if you want to swing by.
Dickens Street?
Yeah.
That's your party? You guys are throwing that? That's
Yeah.
where I'm going. I heard
Yeah,
it's gonna
dude,
be fucking crazy, bro.
It's my party. I mean, I'm Thomas Cub. It's my birthday today.
Yeah, no, I heard it's gonna be like unlimited high school pussy and shit.
Dude, high school pussy for days.
Why? Then they go to some drug dealer that Costa knows about, go inside of his residence, hits weed from him. Then Costa starts humping his gnome, and then they steal it. More on this later. Then they get chased by the drug dealer, lose him, get chased again, get the minivan windshield broken, hire questionable security for the party to say the least. The hell these little niggas doing? They like 13 and built like me. Inform some of the neighbors that there's gonna be loud noise, hit a little pregame, and party's on. Well, at least not at first. They kinda get a little worried about people potentially not showing up, but they eventually do. Which is a little unrealistic considering that they're lame niggas in school. Even me being in high school, I'm not gonna say I was like completely lame, but I feel like if I were to invite people to a party, more teachers would probably show up than students. And not the ones that tell you to stay after class for being a bad boy. But yeah, 30 minutes into the movie and we pretty much have the entire setup. No deep characterization needed, no extensive character motivation needed. Just the idea, the setup, and the party. This is where the movie truly starts. Now I could go scene for scene like I've been doing so far, but I don't really want to do that. I don't want to ruin the entire movie for you guys. I still think you should go watch it. Instead, what I'm going to do is talk about the things that I really like in this movie. Starting with... the way this movie is shot is so unique and amazing, man. They opted for a combination of traditional cinematography and found footage. This is such a good idea because it literally makes you feel like you are a part of this party. It's chaotic, it's high energy, and most importantly, it's raw. You could show these scenes to random people and really convince them that this was from a party that actually happened. The way the cameras are shaky, the jump cuts reminiscent of something that was edited on DaVinci Resolve. It all adds to the realism and makes this movie truly feel like an experience. I love when movies can embrace imperfections for the sake of creating an authentic experience. It feels amateur and yet so refined at the same time. It made so much sense to me when I found out that the director, whose name I'm not even gonna attempt to pronounce, had a background in directing music videos. It really shows in this movie. And I think this was a brilliant choice because, as I said before, you're not watching Project X for the writing or the character development. In fact, in all honesty, these components of the film are cliche and lackluster. But the way they approach these visuals truly makes this movie completely worth it in my opinion. There's so many iconic scenes in this movie because of this too, man. My favorite personally being that police scene, which, once again, I'm not gonna go into too much detail over. I think you guys should just go watch that yourself. It's truly peak cinema. This combined with the film score made of original and 2000s early 2010s classic party jams, what more do you really need? Damn, I kinda didn't really mean to start talking about that off rip, kinda had that for a segment in and of itself. But yeah, the soundtrack, really good. The song choices were perfect, the songs were played at the right moments, and this becomes evident later on in the party where shit eventually starts to take a turn for the worse. The song choices towards the end of this party are so good at conveying the sheer chaos that the party has broken into, while at the same time slowing down a little bit just for you to put into perspective the severity of the situation. It truly succeeds in making you realize that, damn, our main character's fucked up. But once again, more on that later. The other thing that I really love about this movie is the comedy. Now let me just preface this by saying, yes, this comedy might not be everyone's cup of tea, but I'm a dumbass 20-year-old that laughs at degenerate shit. I'm sorry, it's just one of the forms of comedy I like. So if you guys are anything like me, I think you'll have very much fun watching this movie. Like, just watch this scene.
Fine, fuck it. I'm calling the fucking cops.
What'd you do that?
I'm sorry, this shit is funny, and the way that this movie and this scene specifically is filmed just amplifies the comedy. Now you guys might not have found that funny by itself, but once again, if you watch the film and get the context surrounding why that happened, you would laugh. Trust me. Listen, I know I'll be saying a lot of crazy shit. I know you guys probably don't trust me because I'm just some random dude on I'm telling you, you will laugh at this movie at least 5 times. Your uncle, your grandpa, all of them will probably laugh at this movie at least 10 times. Now, I'm not gonna lie, if you got strict parents, if you have a strict grandfather, if you got a strict aunt, uncle, sister, cousin, I don't know. Just, I wouldn't recommend showing them this movie. But if it was on in your room one day and they just happened to walk in and they saw some of the things that were transpiring on that screen, I ain't gonna lie, I think they'd laugh. Now that we've talked about what I like about the movie, as insane as this film is, I'm sure you guys have one question in the back of your head. How does it end? Quick spoiler warning, if you don't want to be spoiled, click off right now. Come back after you watch it, please. I'm not gonna lie, let's talk about it together. But for now, click off. But I'll let you know right now, things take a turn for the worse, to say the least. The party gets too crazy for Thomas to handle, and he's bummed out. But he eventually gets to the point where he's just like, fuck it, there's nothing I can do. If you can't beat him, join him. A news helicopter shows up to broadcast just how insane this party has gotten. Let's not forget that this party was initially just supposed to be something that was held in his backyard. But as we know, things escalated way past that, and the whole neighborhood showed up to the fucking party. So Thomas ends up on top of his roof, flips off the news helicopter, then due to peer pressure from all the people at his party, jumps off of the roof onto a bouncy house, sticks the landing, followed by JB, who proceeds to do the same thing, but he's fat and lame, so he ends up breaking his finger. It is not too long after this that some person of short stature, y'all ain't gonna get my ass, who earlier in the movie was put in the oven by a bunch of people at the party, eventually got out and goes on a spree punching random people in the nuts. But he wasn't just satisfied with that. He somehow gets a hold of the keys to Thomas's parents' Mercedes and drives it into the fucking pool. Costa finally admits that he doesn't know how to fix any of this shit that transpired at this party, and on top of police already being outside to contain the sheer insanity of how far this party went with flashbangs and smoke bombs, remember that drug dealer from earlier? Yeah, he comes back with a fucking flamethrower and starts burning down the town. Because remember that gnome that Costa was humping and then stole? Turns out that gnome was filled with ecstasy that eventually became property of Project X. Then police start shooting him with rubber bullets, which in my opinion, if you're burning down a neighborhood, I think we're a bit past the rubber bullet phase, but hey. Oh, never mind, he ends up blowing up. Enemy felled, I guess. The neighbor from earlier gets attacked by the frail Secret Service, and that concludes the night. We then end up on some random track field with our main characters, realizing that they fucked up, but it's okay, because according to Costa, whatever happens, that was one hell of a night. Don't keep company like Costa got. Thomas's parents come back. His father's understandably pissed off about the fact that his house is uninhabitable, and explains to Thomas that it's going to be very expensive to fix what he's done, and his college fund is definitely off the table. Personally, I think comparing neighborhood arson and house damages to a college fund is either really insane or insanely symbolic. But surprisingly, his dad kinda gets optimistic about the whole thing. No, not because things aren't as bad as they seem, at least on a physical level, but because his son, who earlier on in the film that he called lame, was able to throw such an amazing party. But he reminds him that he's still fucked as his Mercedes-Benz is being pulled out of the pool. Our trio gets back to school to explain how fucked they all are. Thomas explains that he's looking at least 6 charges, that his mother is currently crying and they live in a Courtyard Marriott. JB says that his parents are convinced that the incident is going to mess up his college plans, to which Costa interjects to remind him that it's probably his grades that are going to fuck up his college plans, because remember guys, JB is a dumbass. And Costa, I'm not even going to repeat what he said about his situation. I think you guys should just watch the movie, or if you do know what he said, leave it in the comments. I ain't uploading 2 months. I ain't going to risk my video getting taken down now. Then they ask Dax about his situation, and he explains that he doesn't have any family, so I guess he can't be charged. But even then, he didn't really do shit but record. The frail Secret Service and everyone at that party who did hardcore drugs are probably more guilty than Dax, if I'm being honest. But it's okay, because they finally got what they wanted. Everyone at the high school finally acknowledges them. Everyone at the high school thinks they're cool. And really, that's the end of Project X. Wait, technically it's not really the end. I forgot to mention some stupid plot point where Thomas and this girl have a little love dynamic going, and earlier on in the movie he was gonna go fuck some other girl, so his love interest Kirby, who is honestly just one of the bros, ends up finding out, and now he has to make up with her or something. I don't really give a shit about that plot point. Then we get a little TV segment with Costa, and the movie gives us a little where are they now on the main characters. Which I know we're in the spoiler segment of the movie, but I'm still not going to spoil it, because once again, I think you guys should go watch this movie yourselves. And that was Project X. Now, is this movie good in a traditional way that we consider most movies good? Absolutely not. But I still love this movie, and a lot of other people love this movie. You guys can probably imagine that when this movie was released, critically, it did pretty bad. Critics thought it was crude, degenerate, and overall just stupid. In a lot of regards, they're not wrong. But box office wise, this movie did pretty good. It was a complete success financially, especially because the budget wasn't that high for this movie. And in my eyes, this movie overall was a huge success. Because years later, people still talk about it. To this day, this movie still gets talked about and referenced. In fact, to this day, people still try to recreate the events of this movie. Unsuccessfully, of course. How many college parties have you been to when they called it Project X, Project X, Project X? None of them shits is Project X. But the fact that this movie even set that standard for people to be influenced by it so much truly speaks volumes. Regardless of what critics say, most people tend to look back on this movie pretty fondly. And it is with great confidence that I can say I've never seen any movie quite like Project X. But man, I gotta say, watching this movie truly took me down memory lane and made me realize there's a bigger picture in all of this. Which is crazy because the first time I watched this movie was actually like 3 years ago. But there's a reason why this film is so ubiquitous with pop culture. Because this movie just gets it. It understands what it is and plays its purpose to a T. I feel like simplicity in film has become somewhat of a lost art. I miss the days when movies didn't have to have a profound message or be littered with 200 subliminal messages to be considered good. Sometimes I feel like the standard for movies are movies that you have to watch like 20 times in order to get a fundamental grasp on what you just watched. And that's not to say that today's films lack quality or even creativity. In fact, in a lot of regards, films in late years have been pushing the boundaries of what a great film can be more than ever. And I love deep layered films, but there's a certain charm and art to simple films. And I feel like they just don't really make these type of films anymore. Whether you are on a journey with a young kid whose family left him and he has to learn to be self-sufficient for the first time in his life with Home Alone, or simply just being immersed in the anticipation of how a man is gonna spend $30 million in 30 days with Brewster's Millions. Let's not forget that something does not always have to be deep and layered to be appreciated. Cause I know what the media likes to show you, but let's be honest, majority of people are fucking dumb. Nah, I'm just kidding. Kinda. It feels like what all people want to do nowadays is just take every single good thing from every single good movie and just mash it together in one, and they think it's gonna be a masterpiece. They think it's gonna be appreciated by everyone. It's like you get a sandwich and then you just put oxtail, mustard, relish, grape Kool-Aid. What the fuck? Grape Kool-Aid. Top it off with like a PS5 and then, you know, some cinnamon and then like a Jordan 11. Right, all things that people more or less like and are good on their own, but then you look at the sandwich and you're like, damn, why doesn't this shit look good? Why doesn't my sandwich look appetizing? And why is it that when I take a bite and all these good things slap my tongue, I'm not enjoying myself, because there is beauty in simplicity. Not everything that is good needs to go together. Good and bad can go together and be balanced because it makes a complete product. And variety is just good, man. Variety is good. Sometimes you have to walk through a flower field of simple in order to appreciate the complex flower when you finally come across it. And sometimes you have to walk through a field of complex flowers in order to appreciate the simple flower that's at the end of it. So yeah, fuck your oxtail monstrosity. I'll take a turkey provolone. You know, not everyone's gonna like it. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but it's simple. To a lot of people who aren't used to turkey provolone, it can be considered unique. It's really easy to get into, it's memorable, and will always hold a place in a lot of people's palates. Those who don't get it, don't get it. Those who do, do. And that's okay, because we can like what the fuck we like. And let me just say, I don't blame Hollywood for a lot of these issues with films, because at the end of the day, people vote with their wallets. People always say they want something, but then they'll drop it right in front of their face. But guess what? They're gonna buy a ticket to see some shit that already existed, and they can pretty much guarantee that they're gonna like. No one takes risks anymore. But yeah, guys, that was Project X. I love this movie. I think it deserves to be remembered fondly, and I think it is the greatest party movie ever made. At least so far. I never really watched Superbad, but yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm sorry for leaving you guys for like 2 months. I really am. I'm still trying to figure a lot of things out, but expect a little bit more consistency from me from now on. And yeah, guys, between you and me, if you guys are planning on throwing a party like Project X, just make sure I get an invite. I'm not a hard guy to reach. My social medias are literally in the description. I'll even go ahead and bring some drugs.